Welcome back to PositionSpecific.com and Coaching Journey 1. Just want to start this video off by saying thank you to everybody who's left the comments and sent us messages via email or over one of the social media platforms. It's been a really engaging week. You know, we've touched base with quite a lot of people around the world and hopefully helped a few coaches on some ideas around setting up methodologies and how we work with, whether that's the individual model or game model. So it's been a really good week, and obviously with us being in the off season, we've got a little bit more time to sort of build these relationships. So if there's anything that you wanted to ask, or if there's anything that we can help out on, or something that we can maybe build in the future moving forward, maybe us coming to deliver some sessions, then make sure you send us a message and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. So looking at week 19, so this was our second week after returning from the pandemic break. The first game was going into Liverpool, so they don't come much harder than that. We'll have a little chat about that, so we'll give you a bit of a review around the game. And then everything else will be building up for the Arsenal game. So we're really going after how we're going to build against two systems. We're going to look at the high press of how we're going to deal with two systems. And then we're just going to touch on a little bit of transition in 11v11 games. This is just due to we know the staff at Arsenal and we know what personnel they've got there. We know it's going to be a difficult game, so we need to make sure that everything's done right throughout the week to give us the best opportunity to give them a good game. So just looking at the game review against Liverpool, so we're going to be working out of a 4-3-3, and then we're going to look for opportunities to go into a 3-4-3 box to try overload that central area. So from the stuff that we talked about in the game plan in last week's video. So as you can see, I've added the team identity and targets. And I know I said last week that we weren't going to introduce much of this because there's some stuff that we need to do for the first team. But what I had is I had half a dozen players who came and played in this game for us, who played for me for most of the season. So I just thought, well, we'll throw the targets in there just so they're used to what we're going after and how we review games. So just looking at a defensive transition, 64% from 75. I think this was down to the game and obviously some of the quality that Liverpool had, especially in the personal possession. So whenever the ball was turned over, they was quite clean on that first pass and second pass. So it was really hard to win the ball back within them three passes. Now, what I would say is we were very good at our sort of secondary mission in this area was to stop them from playing forward. So when you watch the game back, yes, we didn't win it back in the three passes, but we actually stopped them from playing forward. So there was a positive spin on the defensive transition as well. So looking at defensive organisation and the high press, this was something that we just spoke to about the players and the team. We didn't want to overload them, but they really took this on board. And you're looking at 89% there for a target of 75. So really, really good. Majority of this was from dead ball situations, so throw-ins, free kicks, and obviously goal kicks. But really, really good performance from the boys in that area there. Attacking transition available. What I would say is, and I've put an X there, just so it reminded me of something. So obviously we've hit the target, so that's a tick. But what I want to say is when we won the ball, we wasn't as clean as we should be on the second pass completion. But what we did do really well is break lines. And there was a lot of space to exploit down the sides, and our 9 got off the side of the centre backs beyond their full backs. So although we wasn't really clean on the second pass completion, I know we hit the target. We was very forward thinking. And this was something that we spoke about at half time, whereas if I looked at the stat in the first half, we was below target. And then in the second half, when we asked them to be a little bit more calmer on finding the second pass completion, just due to the weather and it being the first game. Now, if this was 4 or 5 weeks in and we played, like a handful of games, then would have kept them going because we were getting a lot of success from finding that forward pass and creating a chance within 2 passes. So it was a bit of an interesting one, especially between the staff who were talking about what do we go with, and we decided to really focus on this second pass completion just due to it being the first game and the heat as well. It was really, really hot, and the tempo of the game was frightening. So we just wanted to make sure that when we got it, was a little bit more calm in possession, knowing that we wouldn't be able to sustain it for 90 minutes. And then looking at the attacking organisation, a lot of this obviously came from when we won it, going forward quickly. And even in the second half, when we got control of possession and we started to put two passes together, we were still finding good areas on the pitch and hurting Liverpool. You know, which saw us sort of go on late on in the game and score 2 goals, which was really good. So overall, really happy with the performance and the targets. To say that it's our first game back after, you know, a spell out. So really chuffed with the players on the performance against a really good side. So just looking at the performance review, and we'll start off with the systems of play. So obviously we set up in a 4-3-3 and they were set up in a 4-2-3-1. What I would say is the dynamics in midfield changed. So both teams are always between a 4-3-3 and a 4-2-3-1. Systems matched up what we expected. So really happy with that. We always had the 4-v-3 on our defensive line, plus with the keeper as well. Midfield 3 was matched up for the whole game on 3v3 duels. What we did is because it was our first game back, we just kept rolling our subs in midfield so we could keep high energy, keep finding the mark and tracking runners, and then in possession, making runs beyond. You got your 1v1 duels in the wide areas, and then obviously you got your 1v2 on with your 9. So these top players and the midfield, these were the players that we rotated quite a lot. And I think we only made one change on our defensive line, and that was due to injury. Everything else we just kept to rotation, so we could keep that high energy and save some of the legs of the players. So looking at the attacking organisation, and I've put control there because I thought we got to a spell where we were in control for most of the game. It was just an early performance problem that caught us out a little bit. So if you look here to the left, we set up as normal, but they got their centre forward to screen and sit on the 4 and then pushed on the 7-11, which give us the full-back pass. Now that's fine, and we can get the keeper to clip it in there, which the keeper did. But when he clipped it in there, instead of the full-back jumping, the midfield came and pressed, and they did like a double press on our full-backs. And what happened is we got caught early doors and we lost the ball, and then they broke on us and scored. And I think we're 1-0 down after about 8 to 10 minutes. I'd have to look back at my notes, but it was early on in the game, and we realised that this was going to be a bit of an issue, which we call a performance problem. So what we did is we got the message onto the players literally about a minute or so, and we just asked our fullbacks to drop slightly deeper. And then speak to the keeper about playing the short pass first and not playing into the press. What this did then is it just made the distance bigger from the midfield to press the fullback. Now, if they did come, then we've got a 2v1 on this line here. But what this did is it tended to stay. They went half and half and then held, which give us that 2v1 plus the keeper to just get control of the game a little bit. And then if they did want to come, then they'd leave space in beyond. So we got that message on early doors, and we did get a little bit of control, but we spent a lot of time in the transition for when we won it sort of being direct. So it was a bit of a real high energy game with little subtle things which allowed us to get control a little bit. So that was the first message that we got on, but we didn't want to stick with this message because some of the stuff that we'd worked on in last week's video. Eventually, we got to the structure that we wanted to go with, and that was creating the box. So that was a 3-box-3. And how our game plan is our left back can play centre half, and then these two are comfortable playing central or wide. And then we moved one of our full-backs into here. Now, our full-back from here can play in midfield as well, so the balance was quite good. Now, what we did then is we caused loads of problems because we had the 4v2 here, and then we tried to fix this line, and then we started to really get control of game in these areas, because these were set up to be more of a flat 3. We started to hurt this area here, which was good. When we're talking about arriving spaces here, so our message is one of the players from the side can arrive into that space there. So give you an example. If the midfielder steps on, that allows the 10 to go into the space. Now remember, we've got control here, so we should be fine, shouldn't have to focus on that too much. We also then spoke about the 11 coming in, so see if the fullback goes with him to create space for the midfielder. And then worst case scenario, because he's a left back, is he can then step in and go beyond, and then we have to come round. I know that leaves us 2v2, but what you'll find is, and I've got a couple of clips which I can't show you unfortunately, was he would step in, play it in, and he'd go with him. So actually we still had a 2v1 on our line, so it was good. But this just helped us get control of the game, especially in the second half when it was getting really, really hot, and both teams had left everything out there. So this was good. And again, it just sort of give us sort of time to have a breather and move the ball and get control. So we kept the press simple, got the 9 to start central, and then whichever way they play, we look to lock them in. This was something that we stuck with throughout the game. So just to give you an example here, ball goes to this side. What we did do is we tended to just force it onto the right centre-back. And the reason why is he was reluctant to play the longer passes, so he kept turning them away. What we did talk about then is, especially at half-time, we spoke about tracking runners here, because this player liked to go in and try and get on the ball. So left-back would step in with him, left winger would deal with him, and then we really asked our right forward to be brave, to stop them circulating the ball between centre-back and centre-back, knowing that he was turning away this pass here, the longer pass. And we asked our defensive line to be really brave, especially when we forced him onto the ball, knowing that there wasn't going long. So he was always looking to play through, which then allowed us to go and pinch the ball. And like I said before, we were in the transition quite a bit, because we won the ball and then we'd break on them. And that was how the game sort of went. So really, really good by the players, really demanding for the 9. So we changed the 9 twice in the second half, just to make sure that we could keep that high energy and keep them down that side. So really good from the players. And as you can see from the stats down here, especially on a defensive organisation, this was successful. And I think when you're doing something and it's working, there's no point changing it, till they sort of change the style of how they're going to play, and then we'll adapt after that. But it was working, and they stuck with the same thing, so we stuck with it, and ended up being successful for us. But overall, it was a really, really good game for the first game back. The intensity was frightening. I don't know if it was just because the players just wanted to get back on the pitch and leave everything out there, but it was a real high energy game. And what I'd like to say is our players sort of kept the calm, because we went 1-0 down early doors, but we sort of stayed to our game plan, stayed structured, and it drops into the thing that I always talk about, thinking correctly under pressure. I felt that we did that really well, and the lads got the reward by getting themselves back into the game and eventually going on and winning the game. I'm not too fussed about winning and losing. It's just more about making sure that the performance levels are right. And I always say it to the players, if you get the performance right, 9 times out of 10, you're going to win the game. We know that if, there's games where you can be on top and get beat, but I ain't too fussed about that. It's about individual development and the team performing. So overall, really, really happy with that. And it was just good to see him back on the pitch. If you do have any questions around the performance review and how the game is, or if there's any questions about certain things, just leave your comments below and we'll get back to you. So look at the leading for Arsenal then. So obviously we've got the 3 sessions as normal. So we're going to focus on in possession on the first session. Then we're going to look at some out of possession. And then we're going to look at a little bit of transition in some game scenarios. We won't spend too much time on this because we've got quite a few practices to run through. So let's move on. So session 1, building the attack with a back 4 and a back 3. So we made a decision early in the week after having a chat with the staff, and we just wanted to sort of give them a bit of a refresher around the connection work and working out of a 4-3-3 if that's what Arsenal was going to play. So we just started off with a real simple practice for 16 minutes, low practice load. Obviously, we've been a match day +2, and then really focusing on the individual technical work in this, because the boys do know most of the connection stuff. So like I say, it was just a bit of a refresher, but really going after the technical stuff, which is in here to the bottom left, which is our practice outcomes. So can we get them scanning, moving right, receiving right, and releasing right while working in the connections? So we just had them mirroring each other. So on this side here, the centre half would just drop off, quick support, and then we're just looking at different types of movements here. So fullback supports low at the side of, let's say, their 7-11. The attacking midfielder makes a little movement beyond and then comes in to receive the ball. So we're not playing a link pass from our 4, playing the link pass from our 8, and then we're just looking at a little movement around the mannequin and playing it in, just getting the players into good habits. And like I say, are they scanning? Are they moving right? Are they receiving right? And then what's the releasing skills like? Is it clean and is it sharp? And we just kept this going, but really demanding like a high tempo. So the second one is the midfielder comes low, the 7 comes inside, and then the fullback pushes high. Now, the players are used to this, so they got through it nice and quick, and that's why we were just demanding the technical stuff. Same movements at the top, so once he gets it, takes a step forward with the ball, and then we're looking to break that line. We worked for 3 minutes on one of the connections, and then we just had a little bit of a break, had a chat about it, and then moved on to the next one. So the last one in here was the wide forward coming low, fullback inside, 8 pushing right on. And again, they've got multiple options. They can play inside or outside, and then we're just looking at that rotation, but making sure that our number 2 comes round and covers below the ball. So what we did on the last one is we got the players to set up, put 1 keeper in. So for the last round of 3 minutes, we just got them to play together. So they could move the ball into the centre half, into fullback, and then you look at the connections, and they were just working together to break that line. So that was the last 3 minutes of the session. So again, it was just a refresher for the players, but really going after the technical stuff. So we moved on to another practice. Now we brought the team up, so the forwards went off and the attacking midfielders went off and worked on some crossing and finishing and playing through and finishing. And then I worked on some stuff around building against a 3-4-1-2, which we felt that this could be one of the systems that Arsenal would go with. Again, it's more of a technical practice with a little touch of tactical stuff. But the focus is just to give them painting pictures of playing through and around what this looks like. So here, all we did was we got the 4 to split the 2 centre forwards, and then we get our 2 centre backs, side centre backs, to be on the outside of the mannequin, and then we get our 4 to work the back of the mannequin. So the first pattern is to shift the ball into the right centre back, and then we look to go forward quickly. So the 8 opposite movement, 6 into a position where we need to change, switch the player, and then we can receive on the inside. So depending on what this press is, so if they press on the outside, we can go straight into the 4. If they arc the run and go on the inside, then we can play on the outside shoulder, and then we're out. So this was just a little picture that we worked on. And then all we got them to do was just dribble across the line, build the play so they could have 2 or 3 passes till they work their way back to the keeper, then we work the opposite way. So making sure that they vary it. So this time obviously played into the 4, got on the half turn, and then the 8 plays off the shoulder mannequin. So just making sure that they vary it. They don't play the same one all the time. And we'd work through 3 minutes. then have a minute rest, and so they'd have a drink while we'd show them the pattern on an iPad or a tactics board, however you want to pass that across to your players, and then we'd show them pattern 2 while they're having a drink. So pattern 2 was to go straight back into the keeper, so bounce it back, and then we can go through, but 2 options to play through. So the 4 tries to get in line with the ball, and then the 8 goes on the opposite angle. So the reason for this one is if they're playing with a 10, number 10 in there, if they jump press onto the 4, the 8's free. If they stay with the 8, the 4 should be free. And again, it depends on these 2 players here, but you've always got a passing option. So there should be 4 options for the keeper. Again, just making sure that they vary which pass they go for. So speaking to the keeper, work the ball back, work the opposite way, and then work through. Just little bits of detail that you can add in there is like obviously receiving skills, is what's the weight of the pass, can do a no-touch turn. Once they get the ball, can they fix? So now looking at the last pattern, what we said is go straight into the 4 and then bounce the ball back to see if we can bring these 2 forwards in. So what you're trying to do is when you play into the 4, you're trying to get these 2 or one of them to step in, and then the keeper plays it straight into down the side and around the press. Now, hopefully you can paint them pictures in your mind so you understand. So if I just pause it here a second. So as you do that, let's say this player in here presses, it goes in and then out. And it might even be this player. That player might come in. Then is the keeper aware of where the next pass is? And then we just threw in a bit of an adaptation. So we went for something different just to throw one out there. I know it's quite a lot to get into the players because we've done some of the building of the 4-3-3. But again, it was just something that we wanted to throw in just in case we needed to use it. So we pushed one of them slightly wider, so it's like a fullback. And then we just sort of slid across. So our left centre-back became the one who splits the 2 forwards. Our central centre-back then drops down the side and into a fullback. And then we're just looking at the 8's movement. So we're going to play a one way and get out the other way. So you could play a forward and create a little 2v1, depending what the options are doing. Sorry, 3v1. And if they want to go back to the keeper and then get out the other way, we can use the midfielder. The reason why we're doing that is just watching some clips, the 10 would be drawn more to the ball rather than man-to-man. So it just gives us an option to get out. Now, once you shift the ball out to the right-hand side, you're expecting all their team to shift across, and then we find the 8 on the other side of the pitch. So it was just a bit of an adaptation, just something different that we wanted to throw in there. Little 3v1, go forward, if not in, and a nice flat diagonal pass, and then out the other way. So that, again, that was just a 16-minute practice where we just run through some pictures as quick as possible, just to give the players some ideas of, look, this is what it looks like when we're building against a 4. This is what it looks like when we're building with a 3. So then we went into 11v11 game. We tried to make sure that we didn't play for long periods. So we only played for 3 minutes at a time, sometimes 2, and then we just give them a bit of a breather. All we did was we just played a normal game, but set them up in a 3-4-1-2, and then we just wanted to have a look to see if the players had took on board what we'd done and see if they could get out against the opposition. The objective was just to get across the halfway line. We put like a line which is probably about 15-20 yards away from the halfway line. They were just trying to get across that with a clean pass. And it could be a pass over the top, it could be through, it could be a dribble. And then the coaches would walk round and then would fire a ball into the Reds, and then they'd have a little attack just to keep them engaged. All the stuff that's going on in the video is just the stuff that I spoke to you about, but in a live game, in an 11v10. And these were just the pictures that we were going after. And we didn't play for long. Again, we tried to hit 3 minutes rest. Just went for 16 minutes. Obviously, we've been a match day +2. But it was just all about putting fuel in the tank and making sure that the players are seeing the pictures of what we're going after. So session 2, high pressing against the back 4 and 3. So just having a look at this then, we followed a similar sort of trend to what we did the day before in possession. And we went with just showing you some pictures quickly of what a 4-3-3 looks like, just a bit of a reminder. They'd obviously done really well at this at Liverpool. So it's just making sure that we stay on top of things and make sure that the technical stuff's right within each individual. This session we posted last week or week before, so you've probably seen this. But it's a real simple session. And like I always use the phrase of getting fuel in the tank, about painting pictures quickly. So I'll just run through this session. If you do want to see the practice detail or the outcomes here, you can see it all, the physical load. So it's match day +3, 16 minutes again. There's a little bit of music playing in the background because this is one of the videos that we shared. So on the whistle, what we did is we got the keeper to just play to one of the centre halves, one side, okay, and we had these locked in. So the centre backs locked in, and then we had our top players. So we had the 9, 11, 10, and 7. And all we did was we blew the whistle, and everybody'd sprint into the next position, and then we'd get them to hold. Now, the first couple of rounds, I got them to hold, and I'd go in and pass the detail onto the forwards, and then I'd step away, and then that whistle would become shorter and sharper. Okay. Now, what I would probably say is maybe set up the session and let them press how they want to press the first couple of goals and see if they've got it right. Whereas I didn't have much time, so I just went straight in, worked with a 9, 11, 10, 7. So hold possession. So 9 obviously locking play in. Below, cut out the forward pass. Second whistle, what does the picture look like? Third whistle, what does the picture look like? Now what we did is we got the 2 once he released the ball inside, is to make a forward run, and the 11 had to track him. That just gets him into good habits, especially for the one that could get turned over the top. And then the ball goes back into the keeper. What does it look like again? So again, just relearn these messages over and over again, which the players do know. Just making sure that we stay on top, and then we work the opposite way. And just looking at them pictures, and then back in. So looking at stage 2, so jumping from a different area, just showing you again what it looks like. So press 2. So 9 sets the scene now on one side, and then everybody gets ready. 10 now can start to edge, but don't leave that central zone because the keeper, good keepers will whip that one in there, a little disguised pass. So don't go early, allow them to have that pass. Okay, and then obviously if these guys found the mark inside the pitch, but knowing that the mark's on the outside. Goes in, and then we just work to the relationship between the 9 and then the 7 dividing the 2, and then stopping that forward pass, so, but also knowing where the mark is on the outside. Ball goes wide, and then it's the same picture as what you've seen before, but obviously the 10's high and the 9's inside half the pitch. So you're just seeing them pictures. Easy for a coach as well. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I know there'll be a few coaches out there which don't believe in this stuff. But I think there's a right place for a session where you just need to paint pictures quickly, and then you can put a session on to see how the players take your information on into a game. Looking at the actions there and making sure that you get the fine detail in there around the performance wheel. So just moving on to shadow player 3. So again, just a different scenario. So we worked on it going back to the keeper on this one, and then the keeper playing the long one, and about the recoveries, because it's going to happen. So ball goes in, bounce it into the keeper, and then they love to play that pass there. So we thought that we'd work on it in here. And then the little game there is just, can they just tag them before they get through this gate? If they get through the gate, give them a point. If you tag them, then you could roll a ball in for the Reds and then allow them to go and attack. That's just how we developed the game. So in here as a coach, you could have a ball. As soon as that happens, you could fire a ball in and allow them to go and attack. So practice 2, we start to look at like pressing against the back 3, but instead of it being a bit structured like the one before, we decided to just put like a skill game. Obviously, with it being a match day +3, we wanted the load to be a lot higher. So because that last session was quite light for the players, although you could make it more intense, we just wanted to up the tempo a little bit, and also challenge the players on like, right, how do you deal with this without us coaching them? So how are you going to deal with this 3 and this 2 midfielders? So all the practice details there, practice outcomes are here, physical loads here. But really, really simple session. So we split this up. We just ran some mats down here and we had a big goal. We actually put a goalkeeper in here because we ended up with a GK. So there was an extra body. Halfway line in there with coaches either side and 2v2. So we said that these was locked in here, especially on the first phase. And then these 2 are trying to deal with a 3. Red's objective is to score in the 3 mini goals. If they pass the ball in from this area, so this half, they score from there, it's 1 point. If they can get the ball into this half and score, it's worth 2. Whites, if they stop them from scoring at any point and retain possession, they get a point. And if they're scoring a big goal, they get 2. So that was how the game was. We had 2 of these set up side by side as well. And we had just we had different players playing in different positions just to give them an idea and give us an idea of which players were taking on the information. So this might be something where you might have to change the mark. So you get loads out of this session. So when does your midfielder go? How far does he track? So there's loads of stuff that we worked on within the practice. Obviously with this one, the Reds have scored. So that'd be worth 2. But next ball gets fired in. And then we're working. So we started to work on if they can't get pressure on sliding and screening, and then trying to force the ball to one centre half where they wanted to go, and then jump pressing. In here, we just worked on tight marking, making sure that you match the stride of their midfielders, making sure that don't do you with double movements. And also making sure that you can see ball and defender at all times. And then little triggers of like when to step in inside, anticipate. So you can see here the sliding and screening. We don't want to be doing that all day because we're an aggressive team. We want to be pressing. When the ball goes in, what does a press look like? So can we lock them in on one side? If we can force them wide, brilliant. And then we're looking at inside shoulder. So worst case, we try to get them to go on the outside, which means we can lock them in. Again, this is a point where different coaches work different ways because a lot of people say ball side, goal side, and I agree with that when you're in a more of a zonal style. I think when you're man to man, you're sort of looking more at inside shoulder because you want to try and use the touch lines as much as possible. Here's some scenarios of changing the mark. So once he becomes a threat, can we change the mark? But we need to affect it. What does the recovery look like? What's your priority? Do we have to change the mark as well and leave this player here? So loads of little scenarios for the players and loads of problems for them to solve. But great little game. As you can see, when we had the keepers in here, so there was loads of shots going off. It was real high energy. We worked for 3 minutes, rest for 1, go again. It was just to paint a few pictures, but within a skill game. Then we moved into something similar from the day before, but flipped the roles. So we did a 10v11 game, then working in a back 3. Red's objective just to try and get across the halfway line. Whites if we win it, scoring a goal. Whenever the ball goes dead, we start from the GK. So on that first one there, we were saying, if I just rewind that slightly, if they play the pass, if they play the pass centrally, we can double press and get in there and win the ball. If they play one side, we cover the 2 nearest centre backs. Now, one of bits of information that we passed on to the players was, if the 9 gets the press right and stops the passing to the 4, they can cheat a little bit, and they can go their goal side, so they can then be more aggressive with their positioning if they cut that out. If they don't cut it out, then you've got to stay with them and leave this pass here. Ball goes wide. This is where we're looking to lock them in and then win the ball. Same scenario. If the ball goes back, that player jumps, presses, and then recovers. And then you've got the opportunity to, again, win the ball on the other side. Adaptation, sometimes a lot of teams do this. So they'll go to a back four when building. So one of the centre-backs will go into a full-back position and they'll drop one of the wing-backs in. And it's just a back four. So this was just a subtle reminder that if this happens, divide, divide, step on, ready to divide. And that was just some of the scenarios that we went through in the game. Again, I know it's quite a lot of information for the players because we're trying to prep for two teams, but this is something that the players have done throughout the season, so it's more of a refresher for them. They should know the 4-3-3 more than pressing against a 3 at the back. But again, it's just subtle reminders and trying to get fuel in the tank to make sure that they've seen the pictures. So session 3, we're going to do a little bit of transition out to in, and then we're going to have 11v11 games. So real simple attacking transition, skill practice, multiple scenarios. Anybody who's been watching the journey will see that this is one of our go-to practices. Reason why I wanted to do a bit of transition is thinking back to the Liverpool game. There was a lot of times where we won it, we looked to go forward quickly. There was a lot of turnovers, but we did get a lot of success, especially early in the game. But we just felt that we wouldn't be able to maintain that. So we just wanted to get the players back into a habit of not being scared to keep the ball as well and keep multiple passes to make sure that we get control of the game and we don't tire ourselves out. So we just wanted to do a little bit of transition with multiple scenarios. So you've got the practice detail here. We've got the practice outcomes, so the performance wheels, so available, progress, protect, possess. You've got the physical outload on this side, and it is quite a high energy game. So all we're going to do is really simple, is just one team will keep possession. We started off in a 7v7. And then you can work on both teams, but whenever they win the ball, they're looking to maintain possession for more than 2 passes. How you want to put the scoring system in there is up to you. So we said, I think we said 5 passes would get you a point. So when you win it, can you find that free player to then maintain possession? Real high energy practice. We worked for 4 minutes, which on some of the physical data that we got back, it was quite a high load. So we'd probably drop that a little bit, maybe to 3 minutes. But we did want to give the players a bit of a blowout because of being out for so long. So it's just something that you'd have to tweak with and monitor as a coach. But like I said, really simple, 7v7. We then change it to 8v6 just to keep changing the roles. And what it looked like, so that one team would have a good spell of possession and then the other one would be in a hostile environment when they won it. So it was a 6v8. Flip the role, so it was 8v6 again, but the other team had the overload and went back to 7v7. But again, the principles of it was just when you win it, can we keep it? Really simple practice. We then went into what if scenarios. So game 11v11, you'll have seen this before. There's like 3 games to 1 round. And all we do is we play 11v11 in half a pitch. We matched up in a 4-3-3 in the first one. So just for the people who haven't seen this before. So the whites, we're going to be building. So that was us. So we're going to be working on building and a low block. Now, we're not going to get caught up in coaching in the low block. We're going to start to look at what it looks like and how we build against this. Objective is to get across the halfway line. Reds are not allowed to drop any deeper than the halfway line. So they've got to try hold a high line, which obviously gives an advantage when we find the free play. So when we find the free play, we break the line, play it into the keeper, and then Reds will look to attack, which then puts us in a low block. Obviously, Reds have flipped that, so they're working on a high press and then finishing the attack, if that makes sense. And what we did is we played for 6 minutes. So we worked for 6 minutes, and then we went hard on the tactics in this 6 minutes about what we wanted. Now, that's up to you how you want to do it. You can have coaches in around the pitch and be guiding them and talking to them, or you can do something tactically on the side with the board just before. So really simple, just looking for ways to get out, pictures that we see, and then you're looking to break lines. So all the pictures that we worked on through the week, this is where we see if the players have took it on board and they can replicate this, or you can put fuel in the tank and be on to them around the pictures and what you want to see. So again, if you're not getting many of the pictures that you want to see, just keep restarting from the keeper if that's what you want to work on. We then flip it and then go down the other side. So now we're going to be working on high press and finishing the attack, and then they're going to be working on building. And then for the last game, what we did is we didn't start with throw-ins on this one. We started with a direct free kick from the keeper, so played it long. So we're dealing with direct play, and then we play 11v11 for as long as you want to play for. You could play for 1 minute, 30 seconds. Ball goes dead, restart from a long ball. That's entirely up to you. But it was an 11v11 game. We then went through the rounds again, but we changed the system. So it was a 3-3-2-2 against a 3-4-1-2. And then we played through the 3 games again. So we worked for about 50 minutes in total. It was a high practice load, but we got quite a lot in there because there was a lot of good back and forward information. So there were some really good points that we saw the players that took on board and the decision making for themselves. And then there was some good points from the coaches where we needed some points that we needed to iron out. So a good session overall, really good week, finished on a positive. We obviously had it camcorded, so we got loads of good information that we could pass on to the players, and a load of good actions that we'd seen. Just before we move on, I just wanted to highlight some of the stuff that we've got on our website. And also with the 2 centre midfielder books that you see here, the out of possession, in possession book, we've actually got a deal on our website where you can get them both for £5, which is an unbelievable deal. And we've had loads of messages on why it's so cheap. But again, it's not about us making money. It's just about making sure that we can tick over paying for our website and putting some stuff like this together. If you haven't yet got the deal, make sure you go on and get the 2 books for £5, so you can go into our store, and I'll put the link below, and buy the 2 of them together. There's also the Poacher and the Connecting Coaches, which are free to download. So if you haven't done that yet, get on the website and download them. They're sort of like a smaller version. So the Poacher is like a smaller version of the midfielders books, and then the Connecting Coaches is just something that we tried when we first set up the business. Was just loads of coaches which sent us some sessions. We put it into a book format and we send it out. So I just wanted to highlight this to you. If you haven't got that deal and you haven't got the free books, get on there, get them downloaded. So on to the game plan for Arsenal then. And I think if you look back at the training week, you'll have a good idea of what we're going after and what we wanted to present to the players. How we do it is we were travelling to the game on the Saturday morning. So we put the whole game plan together and sent it over to the players on Friday night on what it was looking like. And then if there was any questions in that time, they could send us a message, or would go through a couple of key points on the bus. So we're going to be working out of a 4-3-3 like we always do. And then obviously we looked at adaptations of going into a 3-3-2-2 or a 3-3-1-3. Now, we didn't work on one of them because we didn't want to overload the players too much, but as coaches, we just wanted to just have it there just in case. So the what ifs and the system changes. So for us, we thought we were going to be playing against a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-4-1-2. So if you look into the left-hand side here, we've got Arsenal set up in that 4-2-3-1 system. Now, what does that look like to us? So we're just going to go into a 4-3-3. So we're matched up on the pitch. Everybody knows where the mark is. And then obviously some of the stuff that we worked on through the week on building and high pressing, the players can hopefully then take that into the game. If they was playing in a 3-4-1-2, how was we going to adapt? And I've left the positions in there because this was the personnel that we went for. So the left forward was a player that we spoke to around what we call a key role. So speaking to them about, look, you're going to have to do this if they change to to this system. The player that we're on about there as well is he's really disciplined and, you know, very good at defending and attacking. He is more of a left winger, but we know that he can do this job and he doesn't mind doing that job. But also knowing that he can cause a threat going forward as well when he can get into his natural position. Our right forward can also play centre forward. So he's been playing that for the last 2-3 years. So we're comfortable with that. And our centre forward was just steady away. He's quite adaptable. He can play the 10, the 9, 7, 11. So quite easy. Midfield dynamics stayed the same. So the right back, like any modern day fullback now, they're attacking minded. So pushing them on 30 yards isn't a problem. Fine with that. Our left back can also play centre half, so that's a comfortable one, and our other two centre halves can play in between. So that was the decision that we'd gone with before the game. We made sure the personnel fitted with this system change if need be. Now, there's obviously loads of different ways that you could do this to suit your team and your personnel, but it's really important to look at the personnel and make sure that you haven't got too many players playing out of position, because then it starts to become like dysfunctional and you start to cause more problems for your team. So they were the two systems that we really went for. We did have obviously another system in mind, but we didn't want to overload the players. So defensive organisation playing against a 4-3-3. And these are just some of the stuff that we've worked on through the week. So you'll have seen this. So we're going to force Arsenal either way. 9 sets the scene, and then we're looking to divide. So the stuff that you've seen, find the mark in midfield, find the mark on the defensive line, divide, divide, divide. When the ball goes one way, press and lock. So trying to keep them down one side of the pitch. So really arcing the run. Inside shoulder, inside shoulder, inside the pitch. Stay with mark, and then stay with mark. And then what we're trying to do then is say to the centre half, just make sure that you're ready to win the duel. So side on, ready for them to go long if we do get quick pressure in. What I would say is our 9 is very quick. So he can cover 30, 40 yards in a matter of seconds. So he's really good at getting instant pressure on the centre half. Winning opportunity when it goes into there. If the ball then gets forced wide, then we're looking to compact and lock. This is the same pictures as well if it's in play. So if we move everything up 30 yards, same thing. If their centre backs are in possession, the 9 sets the scene, sets the press, and it's the same pictures. Press 2. So we'll force them down one side. So again, we say it every week that there's multiple reasons why we do this. It could be a weaker centre half. It could be a right-footed or left-footed centre half down one side. Just loads of little things. It might be that, like, if you're looking back at the Liverpool game, one might prefer to play short and long, and it's just looking for these triggers. Now, our 9's getting used to this now, so he picks and chooses on who he goes after. Our number 10's usually our captain as well, especially within this team. So he's quite organised and sets the press up well. So he sets the scene on this one. And then the 10's jumped. And again, the part of the detail is if he stops the direct pass into the 4, the 9 can be more aggressive with the press. What you'll probably find is, and what we do is the 4 just go straight off the back of the press, so he's going to have to be quick. 7 then changes the mark to stop them recycling the ball from centre half to centre half. Then everybody's tight, inside shoulder, inside the pitch, ready to deal with a long ball. If the ball goes wide, compact and lock. If the centre back goes back to the keeper, the 10 jumps again, which are the pictures that you've seen throughout the week. Defensive organisation then playing a 3-4-1-2. Obviously, we showed you the personnel change before, so you knew which players that we were talking to, made this clear. So divide the 3. So in between, matched up in midfield. Find your mark, +1. If the ball gets played central, both in and press win the ball. And we've got a couple of scenarios in this video here, so there you go. Ball goes central, double press, everybody nice and tight. Ball goes one side, two nearest centre-backs. Ball goes back to the keeper, he jumps, presses, locked on one side, ready to win the long ball. Again, just showing the picture. If it goes back to the keeper, we jump press, half and half. Good. And then obviously the adaptation, which we've seen from quite a few teams, is then just making sure that we divide their four, which is really simple. Our right wing back pushes on, and then our two forwards split between, and our left wing back just deals with his man. Now, one thing what I would say about this is like, obviously everything's like in an ideal situation. One of the little things that we did say to the players, and we did really well against Liverpool, was whenever they did break that press or when a 1v1 duel. So I'm going to give you an example. If the ball went into the 4 and plays it into the 8, and their personal skills are really good, and they get on the turn, take out the 8, then obviously we've got to then work on changing the mark or clever foul. We were really good at Liverpool against them when they brought the press. That was quite cute with the clever fouls, and some of the stuff that we needed to probably work on with some of the change in the mark. But then again, that's just stuff that we'll work on as we get back into the flow of things. So attacking organisation. So we're going to be building against the front three. Structure 1. So we're going to draw the opposition down one side and then exploit the other side. So we're going to find the fullback. So looking at this here, in between. So split these two. Beyond the 7, beyond the 11, pin. Stuff that we'd worked on through the week. So we always talk about this, especially when we're doing our building sessions, is draw and exploit. So draw the opposition on one side. So sometimes we'll get them to stay on the ball. So we'll say, on the first pass, hold. Have a look at the picture. So what do the opposition do? They move across the pitch, and then we exploit the weak side. Now, there's multiple ways of getting it across there. Link passes. And these are just stuff that we've worked with the players anyway, and stuff you'd work on in the session. So these are just like little reminders again. You could also throw in your connection work on the side as well. So some of the stuff we talked about, the connection. Structure 2. It's the same thing again. Draw them down one side. 4 on the opposite side, full back in. Just one thing that we spoke about as well is if the 8 jump presses, the wide forward can come deep or the 10 can come in. So when you're looking at that connection work that we talked about like wide forward low, 10 low, they're the little things that you can paint in your pictures in your mind so that when it's happening in the game, you can help your team find that free player to go forward. And obviously the big thing is security behind the ball. So if the ball turns over, which it will do in the game, is what does it look like? So playing against the 3-4-1-2. So stuff that we'd gone through again through the week. Create a +2 against their 2-man press. So that's your back 3 and your goalkeeper. All the start positions are here, which you can see. And then how do we play? Can we get through? Some of the stuff, if you remember back in the week where we did the little pattern stuff and the scenarios that we talked about, we'll just show them in this video. Start with a central pass, little angle, 9 jumps. It could be on straight away or in and you're out. Obviously, the thing to be aware of is where the jump press is coming from. This is the adaptation that we talked about going off the side of the 10. But what you've got to be looking at is where the jump press is coming from and how that triggers your next move. If you're aware of that as a coach, you can pass that information on to your keeper straight away. So I didn't drop in any of the set plays or anything. We haven't done too much on it. Obviously, we do have set plays in all our game plans. And when we're going through this, we just let the players decide on whether they're going to be a marker, taker, whatever. We leave that up to the players on the bus to organise themselves. I can drop them in if you want to see them, some of the set players. And we have dropped them in other weeks. But it's not something that's our priority at this moment in time. That's sort of the last thing that we'll work on when working through the weeks and getting back into the flow of things. Hopefully that game plan sort of helped you out. As you could see, it was a lot of pictures throughout the week, and that's what we want. We want it to be clear. And then obviously, hopefully the players then can deliver that on the pitch, while as coaches on the side, we're looking for the performance problems of helping them. So if they're doing that stuff, fine, that's not a problem. But we're looking at what the what ifs are. So like I said to you there, it's all good building in a +2 against the 2 forwards. But what if the 10 jumps? What if the 8 jumps? Do they jump from the fullback? So they're the pictures that we're looking at as coaches. I am lucky enough that there's 4 of us now coaching wise. And all the staff are brilliant, and I've got coaches who look after specific stuff, and I can't thank them enough because they're brilliant at passing on information back to us on the sideline. So, like I said, really big game. Players are looking forward to it. We're looking forward to it because we know what Arsenal have got to offer, and we know that they're going to cause anybody a problem in the world, never mind us. So, really looking forward to that. Thanks again for watching the video. I know it's a bit of a longer one, but hopefully you can take something from it. I say it all the time. If there's any questions, drop them in the comments below or send us a message via email or any of our social media platforms. Next week, we'll do a bit of a review on Arsenal. We'll do a similar sort of week building into Sheffield Wednesday, but we actually had another game in the week, so we had Doncaster. I've picked the Sheffield Wednesday game because there was a lot of performance problems in there. Just because of their style of play and how they was physically. So that'll be a really good one to go over as well. So it'll only be 2 sessions. If you do want me to drop a little bit in about Doncaster, that's fine. Just let us know. But we had like a mixed team. We had different players playing over different age groups. So if you do want me to drop it in, I will. Not a problem. Just want to say thank you again for everybody's support. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We are creeping up there now, and it's brilliant to see. If you haven't liked the video, make sure you press the like button and make sure you turn on them notifications as well, so you'll be the first to watch this video when it comes up. Thank you again for your support. See you next week.